Welcome friends, it's Clever Trev here, and this video is going to be going over this toxic swamp that I created in the Dreams Creator Beta, which is over now. But this map took me about 10 hours to create, but I compressed it all down into about a 10-minute video, so there'll be plenty of stuff getting fast forwarded. And if you like this kind of stuff, like and subscribe. So I always start off on a clean slate, and you can see I've got the grid on, and I also like to start right in the center of the grid. So right when we get started, I'm just getting my first person view set up, making sure that I guess just the view looks right, the movement's good, and making sure everything works there, getting the basics down. So next thing I do is I just make the ground bigger, and eventually I make it about 100 by 100 square feet, so 100 feet by 100 feet, and then I turn it green to make it look like grass, because we're trying to make this a swamp. And next thing I do is I just start adding some hills, some little bumps here and there, trying not to be too crazy, just make sure everything is kind of smooth. And now you can see I'm just testing it out, making sure the hills aren't too big where I can easily just walk over them, run over them, jump if I really have to. And now that I've figured out the correct height, I just kind of do that all over the square. Every once in a while I'll go in and test it and make sure everything works okay. So now there's a bunch of bumps, little tiny islands, and it's kind of just grass right now. But pretty soon, see, I'm changing the weather now, so now it's a little bit darker. Starting to look a little more like a swamp. And those markers there are just to mark the center of my square. So now I'm just kind of tweaking certain settings, trying to get the right colors, getting the color of the grass correct, and now I'm adding the fog. So you can see I'm adding, you see that gray stuff, and here you go, there's fog. So I pretty much just made a huge square that's the same size as the first square, but now it's fog instead of land, and I raised it a little bit. And I'm just tweaking settings, changing colors, and now here I'm adding the swamp. So it's going to be that green swamp. So I pretty much made another giant square and raised it up just a tad above that first square to fill in that the flat part of the indents that I made. So now I've got kind of glowy green swamp on top of my first square with some hills. I throw in some sound effects, try to get some swampy kind of sound effects going on. And then it looks like I'm changing the sky color. So when I go to global settings, I can change the color of the sky. Now it's a little darker. Add in some more sound effects. And now I'm going to start creating a little tree type creepy bush thing. So I went into sculpt mode, and you can see I'm making branches, testing it out, and you can see here it slows down a little bit. I'm just kind of painting branches. That's what's sweet, is you can just paint in 3D in this game. And I might be satisfied with that little tree there, so I copy and pasted a few times. But this is when I realized I'm going to be better off using other people's trees instead of spending all my time creating trees. So I just imported some user-created trees that other people made. And now I'm just testing them out. I'm trying to find some good swamp trees. I think I delete some of them that I don't like. So I slow it down here. Those are kind of my selection of trees. And I think I decide after a bit, which ones I like, which ones I don't like. Some of them take up too much memory. And then I eventually make them black instead of white. That way when it's a swamp, you don't want white trees in a dark swamp. So now I just start, once I decide what trees I like, I just start copying and pasting them. So I'm just pasting these trees all over. So now when I look around, we're up to about 20 trees, probably up to 30 now, 40, more like 30 trees. Going back to regular motion here, you can see the fog over the swamp and the hills. The background is pretty gloomy. And so we're just back to copying and pasting trees and stumps, trying to make things look natural. I wouldn't want to make a straight line or anything. Just try to put some stuff randomly down, kind of where you think it would grow, and I'm putting them at different angles, so if they're on a bank, it might be angled a little at a slope. So a lot of copy and pasting, because I'm just using the same trees over and over again. And now I start importing bushes. Give it a little bit more, instead of just trees, they're smaller shrubbery. And we're copy and pasting. Every once in a while I'll save it and rename it. And I changed to director mode there, it's a little bit brighter. Okay, so now we're starting to add those creepy zombie people. So I took a regular template of a character, turned it black, and then turned the head to red, and then made the head kind of like fiery. I changed a bunch of the settings on just the head, so the head kind of glows brighter and it kind of looks like it's on fire. You know, I was just trying to make something cool real quick. I didn't want to spend a whole lot of time. I was really more focused on the swamp. But here's what the dude. Pretty creepy, right? It doesn't attack you or anything. It just will follow you. I just put it on default follow settings. And now we're up to creating my creepy little bird bat things that fly around. Here's a nice little quick shot of where we're at. So I created these things that kind of look like bats, and then eventually I'm going to animate them so it looks like they're flying. So there they are. This is them just unanimated. They're frozen. But eventually what I do here is I start putting animation stickers on them, and then I fly them around, and it records the animation that you did. So then when I play it back, those creepy birds will follow the recording that I made, and I put it on loop, so they'll pretty much just keep flying in circles. Because when I record these animations, I pretty much make a big giant loop around the map, and I try to end right where I started, so that way if I loop the birds, they'll just continuously loop in circles, big circles around the whole map. And here's an example. I put the sticker on it, and now I'm looping it around. So it's actually recording my movements right now. So once I stop the recording and I go play, you'll see these birds actually flying around, or whatever you want to call them. They're more like little demon bats. So here's you can see that I recorded those animations, and now they're flying around. Really, really cool features in this game. So I know that I animate these bats for a little bit here, so I just do several different animations. Each one you have to do individually, or at least I did. You can copy and paste this kind of thing as well, but I was just kind of trying to do them unique and do them all individual. Some of them I kind of have sweeping up and down. Some of them are just kind of taking smaller circles. And here's another shot. So it's not perfect. You know, I didn't do perfect, but I was still learning at this point. So more animations, more animating those bats. I spent a good couple hours just working on those. But a lot of it I was learning how to do the animation because I'm still new. You know, this was just the Dreams beta. And if you're wondering, I would recommend, if you want to play this game, it's going to be in early access in like the spring or the summer of 2019. Definitely go over to Media Molecule and try to follow all of their news. It'll keep you posted. That's what I'm doing. And as soon as it becomes an early access, you want to grab it right away. So you can see where we're at. Got birds flying, lots of shrubbery and trees. It's looking really pretty. And now what we're going to do is we're just going to expand it. So instead of one square, I'm actually going to duplicate it 8 more times to make 8 squares around that single square to make it like a giant grid. So first I'm just kind of saving the swamp chunk. And what I decided to do here is, instead of duplicate it, I made just kind of like more of like a swampy area instead of much land, less trees, because I was starting to run out of memory. Your levels have a certain thermometer gauge that you can fit in. So the main square that we started with is like the main island, but then I kind of make a perimeter around that main island just to make it bigger. I didn't want it too small. So now I'm just kind of editing stuff. I put this in there to have an ending. So that little red thing, that red shack, which I eventually turned yellow here, that's where we end the map. I just wanted to have some kind of objective, somewhere to go, some kind of way to start and end the map. So once you go into that yellow shed, the map ends. And I'm just copying and pasting some of my zombie firehead guys. Bunch of copy and pasting, editing, kind of tweaking them, giving them different speeds, different jump heights, just to see. A lot of this was just me testing my limits. And I just copy and paste a bunch of those guys. And then pretty much at the end of all my creation, and you'll have one last final peek here. So this is the final product. We got the bats, the fire bats flying around. We got the fog, we got the swamp, we got the hills, we got the trees. We got some of the fire zombies close. Some of the fire zombies are huge way in the background, like you can see that one. Some of these fire zombies are really fast. You see these ones are chasing me. Some of them are kind of slow, some of them are tiny, some of them are huge. Look at how towering that one is. And eventually it does follow me once I get close to it. And then once we finally get to the end here, you'll see how it actually ends. And just one final look at the whole map, looking up at these giant fire-headed zombies. And we enter my golden shed, or whatever you want to call it. And then that's how you end the map. Eventually I'd like to add more, but it was just kind of me learning. So that's how I made the huge toxic swamp. Thanks for watching. I hope you learned some stuff. I recommend getting this game. It's called Dreams by Media Molecule, and it'll be out hopefully this year. Like and subscribe if you liked your stuff. Peace.